Hi, fellow Democrats. I can't tell you how proud we are all around the country about what you have accomplished in Wisconsin. I also know this, you're not done yet. I'm Paul Begala, a political strategist. I met many of you I know when you all helped Bill Clinton win the White House, and I was along for the ride. And tonight I am really proud to join you to talk a little bit about your party's strategy, and it is a good one, to stop Scott Walker and to win on June 5th. Now, let me be clear. You guys have come a long way, and I am very impressed. And the strategy I want to talk about tonight is what your leaders have briefed me on that will help bring you to victory in just, 61 days? Pretty impressive. Okay, first, one word of unsolicited advice from an old campaign dog. You guys are going to have a rough and tumble primary. This is going to be tough, I know. But once you get that behind you, you're going to need to unite around our candidate. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't have a crystal ball, but I know this. It is only through unity that we will be able to stand up to this unprecedented, unprincipled money machine that Scott Walker is putting together from places like my beloved home state of Texas or New York. He has unified his party. The millionaires and the billionaires are united. The oil polluters and the chemical polluters are united, right? The right wing and the ultra right wing is united. The Cro-Magnons and the Neanderthals are united. So we're going to have to be united too. Now to that strategy that the Democratic Party of Wisconsin has crafted for your nominee. At its heart, and I love this, is a reliance on the power of people. That is exactly what brought you folks this far, taking on the Tea Party and the piles of right-wing cash that fueled Scott Walker's Tea Party machine. So first, the Democratic Party is going to continue to use a very aggressive strategy with the press. I have to say I love that, and it makes a huge difference. I love this Women Against Walker group that you all have started, which is highlighting these really radical steps that Scott Walker has taken, rolling back freedoms for women, and basically, I think, trying to make them second-class citizens in their own state. I love this platform that you've created, the walkerinvestigation.com, and I've checked it, and it's some pretty frightening and pretty impressive stuff on there. And speaking of frightening, I have seen in the Wisconsin press stories that your current governor has hired some pretty high-priced criminal lawyers. Something about a potential criminal investigation. Look, I'm educated as a lawyer, I'm trained as a lawyer, but I'm not going to play a lawyer on TV. And I deeply believe that every American ought to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. So I can't prejudge even whether there is a case there. And I know this. Scott Walker stands accused in the court of public opinion of dividing Wisconsin, damaging Wisconsin, and dragging Wisconsin backwards. And on those charges, he is guilty, guilty, guilty. And we're going to prove that in June. Now, in addition to traditional press, social media has been a very impressive part of your movement there in Wisconsin. And I've seen the party using Facebook, Twitter, and by the way, the most visited Democratic State Party website in America. I go there myself, so I know I'm one of those millions of people that have clicked on there. And if you continue to build that, and I know you will under your chairman and your executive director, you're going to deliver unprecedented messaging in a highly targeted way, in a way that will raise money and turn out voters, and it's significant and it's effective, and I want you to keep doing it, and I know you will. Now, meanwhile, one of the things I love about our party is that we believe that knowledge is power, right? We believe in empowering people with knowledge, and so I want to see you all leverage the information and the data that you gained from that historic recall drive. Keep in mind, you all submitted more than 1 million signatures put together by an army of 35,000 volunteers. And you literally signed up more than 263,000 people for this campaign through that effort. Hugely impressive. Now here's the deal. Every byte of that information was collected in the largest petition drive I've ever seen, perhaps the largest in American history. It's going to be used in June to then identify, persuade, and drive people out to the polls. And that army of 35,000 volunteers I mentioned, they're going to be part of a field program that will dwarf anything that Scott Walker could buy and pay for. It is always more powerful when people are driven by their heart, by their conscience, by their love of state, than Walker's folks just being driven by a paycheck from some right-wing billionaire in Texas. So your field program is not only going to allow voters to jump over the hurdle that Scott Walker and his extremists are putting in place with these really oppressive new voter ID laws. The field program will also be able to use a targeted modeling program that will show you just where y'all need to succeed in June to pass the threshold that you need to win. Now, I can tell you tonight, based on your party's estimates, we're looking at about 2.17 million voters in June. Okay, here's what that means. You're going to need about 1.1 million of those voters to beat Scott Walker. That's a lot of votes. That's the bad news. Good news is it's just 100,000 more voters than have already signed the recall petition. It is evident to me that your state wants change, and your state wants to get rid of Scott Walker. But you got to find those people. You got to get to that 1.1 million Wisconsinites and bring them out in June. Now, the key to doing that, I think, is to focus on the northern part of your state. Now, look, what do I know? I don't live in your state, but I've got a connection there I'm going to tell you about in a minute. I know this. Northern Wisconsin, heavily for Barack Obama and Joe Biden in 2008. He ran up there great, and you all turned out to vote for him up there. But then look what happened. By the time we got to 2010, fueled by Scott Walker's millions and a bunch of right-wing lies, that region collapsed for us in 2010, and that made all the difference. So we went from winning big to losing there, and now that's, to me, that's the key geographic battleground. You've got to win them back. Here's how you do it. You earn their votes the old-fashioned way by being smarter, working harder, and making your case. By the way, that applies not only in northern Wisconsin, but in every part of your state. And I know that not just because I went and campaigned there with Bill Clinton and many others. I know it because my wife is from Baraboo. She's a Sauk County girl. Her family are all dairy farmers in Sauk County, and then her daddy joined the Army and left Baraboo to go serve our country in Vietnam. But we still go back a lot. We go to, I probably run into you at the Circus World Museum there in Baraboo, or maybe out at Devil's Lake, or maybe even standing in line waiting to get a custard at Culver's. So I think I know a little bit about Wisconsin values because I married into your family. And your state is, it's just classic all-American, and not too far left, not too far right. A huge premium that I think you all put on things like fairness and honesty and a really deep patriotism for our country and your remarkable and beautiful state. And what I keep hearing when I talk to friends back there is that they want Wisconsin to be Wisconsin again. You know, there's a tradition there, and it's of accomplishment and progress, and it used to be a bipartisan commitment to progress. And, you know, I have watched what's happened under Scott Walker, and it's been really disappointing, I have to say. But then I've watched what you all have done, and it has restored my faith in democracy and always my faith in Wisconsin. So here's my message. Enjoy your night tonight. And if I can conclude by quoting my Badger wife, she would say, "On Wisconsin."